Okay. So welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. So today we're going to talk about the last quarter of our capacity building project that has been going on this year. I'll just quickly let our team introduce themselves. So my name is Scott Williams. He, him are my pronouns, and I have been the project coordinator for this, what we have internally called Project Excelsior. Shannon, who are you?
Hi there, I'm Shannon. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Program and Partnership Coordinator.
Hi, my name is Ash Kreider. My pronouns are they, them, and I have been the Marketing Development Coordinator.
Great. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us. So Spectrum is on the Haldimand Tract, which is the traditional land of the Mississauga Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Neutral peoples. And we know, of course, that just acknowledging the truth of this is only a first step towards reconciliation. So we're very excited that we've recently, our board has recently been joined by an Indigenous Two-Spirit woman named Holly George, and she's been helping us to develop some Two-Spirit programming specifically. So going into next year, we'll be looking at doing some special things in that area, and she'll be helping us to do some work to hopefully decolonize some systems. What is Project Excelsior? So last, I guess at the end of 2019, was that when you started it, Jim? Yes. So Jim and others put together a grant application for the LGBTQ2 Community Capacity Fund, which is a federal fund managed by Women and Gender Equality. And I see Janet's here. Thanks for being here. That's great. So the goal of this was to build stronger capacity and networks of LGBTQ community organizations to advance equality across Canada. So we applied, and we're very grateful to have been recipients, allowing us to work on this project this year. So our project had 4 pillars. They were improve corporate governance and sustainability, improve community outreach, improve support for volunteers, increase financial resources. And we're going to go through each of these sections in some detail and cover everything that we were able to accomplish this year. This fancy thing will just give you a sort of high-level overview of the different categories of work that we were doing and the time of the year that it was being done in. So I'll let you just take it in for a moment. Was a fairly complex work plan. We were able to accomplish more than what was in the original work plan, but we did shift some things around from what was originally proposed. Some things took a little bit longer than expected. Others were done much more quickly. So the first pillar was improvements to corporate governance and sustainability. This was largely an area of my responsibility. So part of it involved creating a board improvement plan. So we sort of solidified some processes. We started actively getting committee meetings happening. So we now have our executive committee, a financial management committee, a fundraising and development committee, and a human resources committee, and also an EDI committee, which is maybe going to become just a permanent one. We'll see. It is a focus of our work going forward for sure. So we have been doing ongoing training for board members in a variety of subjects. At every monthly board meeting, we've invited a partner organization to come and give us a 20 or 30-minute presentation about what their work is, what their programs and services are. And that's been done for 2 reasons. The first is to give our board members a good sense of what is available in the community, so that when we're working with community members, we can refer them to appropriate other services as needed. And the second reason is that so that we could potentially identify areas of collaboration, partnership. So big thanks to all the organizations who helped us out there. We had Volunteer Waterloo Region, which was formerly the Volunteer Action Center. Let me think. Sexual Assault Support Center, Aqua, the House of Friendship, Hospice Waterloo Region. I'm going to forget people. Sanguine Health, all kinds of great folks. And then our board members also engaged in additional training as we identified it in very specific topics. So they did some training through the Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion, and some governance training at various board boot camps from both Capacity Canada and Centrelink in the US. And then the last point here, we hired EDI consultants. So Chenille Warren as a member of a local Black community, and Katrina Fukuda as a member of local Asian community. And they are in the process, well, they've now finished their work and we're gonna get their reports tomorrow actually. So they have done extensive audits of basically all of our documents, our policy manual, all of our forms, all of our procedures, handbooks, everything that has to do with us. And they're going to report back to us on things that could be changed or improved to make us more relevant and accessible, hopefully, to members of Black and Asian communities. So we're looking really forward to getting that report tomorrow. Any questions about these things? The other big area at the beginning of the year that fell under here was to create a strategic plan, which we've talked about at some of our previous presentations. Oh, here it is right here, new strategic plan. So including revised vision, mission, and value statements. And we developed a new policy and procedure manual, which we have talked about at previous meetings. Also, it's now near 250 pages and just being finalized. There are a few that we could not finalize until we were back into the physical space, which is where I am now. So excited to be there. We moved from using various systems, including Dropbox, to manage our corporate documents and workspace to Google Workspace or G Suite. So there was some time at the beginning of the year we talked about previously taken to migrate everything over, build a new sort of system. I'm not getting the word that I want, but a new system of management for all of these things, which has been really helpful. And here I'm going to pass things over to Ash for a minute to do this section.
Yeah, so I this year have been lucky enough to be the marketing development coordinator for Spectrum. So I took the lead on a lot of different projects, but a lot of the stuff that I worked on was also, pardon me, in collaboration with the whole team. So at the start of the year, part of one of the key points in our proposal to WAGE and something that informed the strategic plan, as well as all of our marketing efforts, was we conducted 2 major community surveys. The first was in January and February, where we conducted a community survey of local 2S LGBTQ+ people in Waterloo region. We got 177 qualifying responses. The results of that survey were very enlightening because of the extremely personal answers that we got. The results of that survey have been kept internal to Spectrum, but they were very helpful in launching some of the new programming that we've launched this year, and as well as looking to the future. In April and May, we also conducted a survey of people in Waterloo region who are not 2S LGBTQ+ about how they perceive 2S LGBTQ+ people. We got slightly more than twice the number of responses, with 367 qualifying responses, and a public report of that survey data has been published on our website. And in June, as part of Pride Month, we also conducted a series of focus groups with local asexual, aromantic, bisexual, and pansexual people about their experiences of queer gatekeeping in our community, as that was one of the biggest needs that was identified in our January community survey, was hearing from people who are ace, aro, bi, and pan, saying that they had been made to feel actively unwelcome and unsafe in local 2S LGBTQ+ spaces. So that was an important part of some of our new programming, as well as defining some of our new policies. It's unfortunate that there have been delays to the new space, but we have a big poster that's going to go up in the new space about, queer gatekeeping is one of the things that we don't tolerate, and anyone who says that they feel welcome in a 2S LGBTQ plus space is welcome at Spectrum. One of the biggest projects undertaken this year was our rebrand. So we worked with The Public, which is a graphic design studio that specializes in working with nonprofits in Toronto on a rebrand process to come up with a new logo and new brand colors. And that new branding was then implemented with our new website, which was launched at the beginning of August. The rebrand process was something that the entire team, worked on, and we were very grateful to have the participation of our former executive director, Jim Parrott, as well as our former trans services coordinator, Melissa. Oh, I'm so sorry. But yes, to provide that continuity of perspective for the rebrand that's reflected in all of our new materials. And then a lot of work has been done, updating all of our social media templates, creating new signage, new brochures and all of that stuff. Part of our community outreach efforts was also expanding our event offerings. And again, this is something that was really done in collaboration with a lot of our volunteers, as well as Shannon and the rest of the team. So during Pride Month, we partnered with 5 community partners to run 11 Pride events. These were unfortunately virtual because of safety reasons. We did have some hopes for some, in-person stuff that we canceled because it just wasn't safe. But, we did have a lot of participation. 178 people participated in our Pride events, and 115 people subscribed to our mailing list. We've also this year launched 8 new programs. So we have a queer yoga group. There's queer craft group, mindful movement. We've got a book club. There's a new group for young adult networking. There's a new youth support group and a new Cambridge trans support group, since one of the things that came out of the community survey was it was difficult for folks in Cambridge to attend support groups here in Kitchener. So anyone who is interested in these new groups, there's information on how to register on our groups page on our website. And we have more plans for more groups in 2022. So stay tuned. Another major effort this year was a number of new online community resources were developed. One of the things that came out through our community survey, as well as the strategic planning process, is there is a real lack of education about 2S LGBTQ2 cultural competency in our area, both in our schools and businesses and other institutions and organizations. So a lot of effort was put into creating resources that would be useful to the community. In April, we launched our 2S LGBTQ plus media style guide and terminology reference that has a comprehensive list of terms and definitions, as well as some more nuanced discussions of topics of relevance to the 2S LGBTQ plus community for people who are trying to understand what are the most respectful ways to talk about and write about 2S LGBTQ plus people. We also launched our TransNav GPS directory. That's a directory of trans friendly and inclusive business and service providers in Waterloo region. We collaborated with Wisdom to Action to launch our trans mental health and suicide prevention toolkit that has a lot of great tools and resources for friends, family, community members, but especially healthcare providers and service providers to understand best practices for providing support to trans people in order to mitigate the very high suicide risk for trans people who are not supported by their friends and family in our community. We have, in addition to that, we have a new page on our website that is a directory of local 2S LGBTQ+ crisis resources, including one of the things that came out of the Wisdom to Action toolkit was a crisis planning worksheet. So something for 2S LGBTQ+ folks to work through ahead of time, so they have something to refer to if they do find themselves in crisis and are having trouble making decisions. And we also have our new 2021 edition of the Rainbow Pages Business Directory, which is a directory of businesses and care providers in our region that are 2S LGBTQ+ inclusive. And in addition to all of that, we also have more than 20 new fact sheets, guides, and explainers on the resources section of our website, and a comprehensive directory of educational resources for really any kind of stakeholder in the community. If you're a parent of a 2S LGBTQ+ child, if you're a teacher, if you're a healthcare provider, or even if you're a 2S LGBTQ+ person who is looking to understand better people who experience marginalizations that you don't personally experience. So all of that content was also part of our enhanced social media strategy. So at the beginning of the year, as part of our new strategic planning process, something that happened in collaboration with that was the formulation of our new communications plan, which included a redefined social media strategy. And again, this was greatly assisted by our community survey in January and February. It was very helpful hearing from people what sorts of things that they wanted to hear from us in terms of communications. Along with the rebrand, there was also new brand standards and guidelines, a content plan for all of 2021 and now 2022, and a social media content schedule has been drafted for whoever is going to take the reins on that going forward. We launched a new monthly email newsletter that promotes both our events and events of relevance within the community that's linked to our online calendar of events. We had 800 subscribers for our November issue, and I believe our December issue was 927. So we've seen a good amount of uptake on that as well. And next, we're going to talk about improvements to volunteer recruitment and support, and I'm going to pass things over to Shannon.
Great. So like Ash said, my role primarily focused on improving volunteer recruitment and support. So at the beginning of the year, I conducted interviews with our current volunteers, and I also attended a variety of Spectrum programming to better understand Spectrum's needs and our volunteer landscape. This, as well as other research, helped me to create a variety of items that would better support the team. Some of these items included creating consistent role descriptions for a variety of positions, both our currently existing positions and potential future roles. And these descriptions then helped guide the list of training needs for our volunteers to be successful in their roles. And I came back to the training needs later in the year. I also created new volunteer recruitment and retention guidelines and all of the materials that went with them. These include things like structured interviews, email templates, performance evaluations, where to recruit, and surveys for when people exit the organization. And it also included things like looking at our organizational culture, understanding volunteer needs and motivations, and the organization-volunteer relationship. And then there were also guidelines for handling requests for student placements and how to strategically place students at Spectrum. So these were all created. And then after doing a lot of research and understanding our own volunteer landscape, we selected Better Impact as our volunteer management tool. It was also a bonus that Better Impact had a donor management side as well, which Scott has been busy with this year. Better Impact has a volunteer portal where our volunteers can sign in on their own end, create a profile, upload important documents, send emails to other team members, and find all the information that they need for their roles. Other key benefits of Better Impact include that it has a self-scheduling option for volunteers, and that our training program could actually be built directly into Better Impact, having everything in one place. And then finally on this slide, by conducting surveys of the public and of our current volunteers, like Ash said, we were able to identify potential future programs based on our community needs, some of which have already been implemented, which is so exciting. When it came to volunteer training, 2 items were critical. So first, a new volunteer handbook was created that outlines the key information that volunteers need in their time with Spectrum. And it also applies more generally, not only to volunteers, but also to paid facilitators and whatnot as we increase that capacity. And it includes things like Spectrum's history, understanding our mission, vision, values, the other programs that we currently run, relevant policies and procedures, and the volunteer code of conduct. We also wanted to make the training for all team members as consistent and as easily implementable as possible. So we chose to make our training program primarily online and self-directed. Team members log into Better Impact and access all of their training materials right from there. And training modules include things like health and safety, accessibility, racism, racial discrimination, and human rights, our own rainbow diversity training, and to us LGBTQ+ cultural competency, and training and facilitation, among other things. Our team members have also had orientation sessions to tell them about these changes, and they have started working their way through the online training program, even if they've been with Spectrum for up to 9 years. So it's nice that now everybody's going to be going through this new training and giving us feedback as well. The other significant part of all of our roles was the relaunch of our Rainbow Diversity Training Program, or RDT. From April through November, we all worked to reimagine, create, test, and polish our new RDT courses. And RDT can either be done, one, as a live facilitated workshop or sets of workshops. And these are typically for organizations. And they include RDT 101, 102, 201, 301, RDT for leaders. And then we also have our Aging with Pride team that focuses on working with older to us LGBTQ+ individuals. RDT 101 and 102 can also be done as online self-paced e-learning modules, which, as I said, our volunteers actually do that as part of their training. And we have even hired and trained facilitators for this program. So you can start booking your training sessions now. More information can be found on our website or email any of us for more info. So this wage grant has allowed us to work with Skylight Productions to interview 14 community members about their experiences as to us LGBTQ+ people within our own community. We've so far released 10 videos, which are all on our YouTube channel. And these first 10 were mostly made to be included in our RDT workshops and online modules. An additional 5 to 10 videos are forthcoming. Scott has been incredible with this. Anytime he has sent us a video he's completed asking us for feedback, they are perfect. Ash and I hardly have any feedback. So if you have seen any, I hope that you enjoy them as much as we do. And we never could have afforded to produce these without the support of the wage grant. So thank you so much. And now we're actually going to share one of these videos with you. In this one, we explore coming out stories and contrast the experiences of older rainbow folks with younger people.
For me, coming out is like unpeeling an onion. You start out figuring out who you are for yourself, and then it's a process of revealing to one person after another who you are, gradually becoming more and more transparent.
I realized that I was different probably around 14, 15.
I knew when I was 4. I told my mom, and I got punished quite a lot.
Well, I came out to my sister and my brother, and both of them were like, yeah, duh.
For the 50 years when I was pretending to be the man I never was, I always felt bitter and resentful and angry. But once I came out, I found that the further along I went, the more comfortable I felt.
I first came to understand that I was probably gay as a 5-year-old child.
Deciding to come out was something that I needed to do for myself and my health.
You'll notice I don't have a lot of teeth because I got beat up 4 different times in this town.
I had a pretty easy time with feeling accepted for my identity and not feeling any pressure to sort of conform to certain things or behave in certain ways, which I really appreciate.
I grew up in an era where being trans, wearing, in my case, women's clothing was illegal. When my parents discovered it, my father especially raked me over the emotional coals and made me feel very, very guilty and shameful. And that stayed with me until my 50s.
And I came out to people like slowly, right? I was really worried about what people would think. And so you choose 1 or 2 people that you trust, and it would kind of build from there. Coming out in high school was not an option for me in rural Alberta. And so I kind of had to move away to university first. I think that's true for like a lot of people.
In terms of really coming out, that did not happen until I joined the University of Waterloo queer group. And in the process of doing that, I heard all sorts of coming out stories, some of them really positive and some of them absolutely dreadful, where people were disowned and that kind of thing.
When I had to hide when I was younger, it took a toll. I didn't feel like I was actually myself. I was putting myself out there so that I could fit the boxes that society had for a girl, and it was hard.
I started to realize what being transgender actually meant and what it meant for me, and started questioning gender stuff and kind of piecing together a lot, and realized that I wasn't a woman and that I was transgender. And so that sort of led to a second coming out. And so legally changed my name, socially transitioned, accessed what I wanted to in terms of medical care. And everyone was supportive and no one was surprised.
There is so much uncertainty to it. You absolutely do not know how people are going to respond to this disclosure. People who you think will be totally okay with it are not. People who you think are not going to be okay are.
Most people have many coming outs, and that's normal.
Come out when you're ready. No one should be forcing you to tell your story when you're not ready to tell your story.
The idea that there are kids now who are 4 years old who can declare themselves, and their parents will say, okay, and their schools will say, okay, these are all things that are true now. That's miraculous, right? That was my dream growing up. And it was impossible then. Impossible.
I have to say, the way it is now, it's somewhat simpler than it used to be. But that said, I still see that there are a lot of people who go through absolute hell when they're coming out, and they need a lot of support.
If you know a queer kid and they're not being supported by their family, you support them. You use their pronouns. You respect what they are, who they are. Because one person can make that much of a difference.
Everyone is just trying to be happy.
Living as yourself is the best gift you can ever give yourself. When I transitioned, I lost everything. But it was still the single best decision I've ever made.
everybody has a gender identity, that everybody has a sexuality. We're allowed to be ourselves. It's important to be ourselves. When we allow people to be themselves and take up space, that's when we can be at our healthiest and at our best. I think labels are not boxes to put people in, but they're words to get inside feelings out. So I can communicate what this means and feels to me, so you can get it and understand, and we can talk about it and feel about it.
We just want to live our lives being ourselves. I'm not a weirdo. I'm not a threat. I'm not a pervert. I'm not some deviant. I am just a human being wanting to live my life in peace and fulfillment, contentment, and joy.
Yes. So many of these videos are tearjerkers, and they still get to me, but it has been a privilege to be able to sort of bear witness to people's stories. It's been an intensive project, a work-intensive project. We shot them over 3 12-hour days, basically, and then the editing of each one is time consuming because we have about 20 hours of footage to sift through for the whole thing. So, but it's been very rewarding. And one of the most successful parts about our Rainbow Diversity Training Program has historically been the personal stories that have been shared by the facilitators. But that does come with some emotional labor, retelling these stories over and over again. So these videos are one way to mitigate that. And now we make these stories available to people across the world online, and we hope that they will be used widely. So please do check out the YouTube channel and see what you can see and share them. So the fourth pillar, increasing financial resources. So back at the beginning of the year, when I started working on the strategic plan, I did a fairly extensive environmental scan of LGBTQ community centers across the country. So thank you very much to the Enchanté Network and our partner organizations who were able to share some of their financial information. We wanted to understand what the financial landscape was, how other organizations were funded, what their programs were, and how we compared to others. So you can see us at the top there in 2018 and 2019 with 0 staff members. Spectrum has been an entirely volunteer-run organization until this year, which has been very exciting. So this is just a sample of the kind of information that we were collecting. So this and other things were used to then create a financial sustainability proposal, which included a wide variety of things that Spectrum might consider as avenues to pursue to become more financially sustainable. So it included various fundraising things, social enterprise ideas, investment ideas, all kinds of stuff. And then that was then picked through for the best options for us. And we created a funding plan, which has been implemented. Actually, some of it was implemented before we even finalized the plan. For example, we started a grant writing very actively. And that's continued to be part of the plan for going towards 2022. So thank you very much to our funders, including the federal government and WAGE. Some of the other folks you can see here, some of these were funders of grants that we received this year. And we're very grateful because it's with their assistance that we've been able to do to create those new programs that Ash was mentioning earlier. And we actually have even another one starting tonight. And the ACE Space group is going to meet for the first time. And that's for people who are on the asexual or aromantic spectrums. And then many more things coming that I will be excited to talk about when they're more concrete. One of the things that was included in the financial plan was really developing an active fundraising program. So Shannon mentioned Better Impact as our donor management system. So the beginning of that was a lot of data entry. So I took all of the donation information from 2017 forward and input that so that I had a sense of who our donors were. And then we implemented a fundraising campaign with postal mailings that went out in June for Pride Month, and then in December for the traditional sort of year-end giving season. And so together, once we've looked at all of that information, we'll have a really good sense of who our supporters are, how they like to give, why they like to give, what are the programs that they care about. And that's going to be very useful going forward, I think. So from January to November of 2021, we hosted 267 virtual programs. This is one of the things Zoom is good at, is recording this sort of information. So over 2,000 participants, totaling 198,291 minutes of Zoom time, which is a lot. So an average of 185 participants each month. When we were designing and testing our rainbow diversity training, 270 people participated in those workshops as we were testing and getting feedback. 178 people attended those Pride events that Ash mentioned. And through a partnership with the OK to Be Me program at KW Counseling Services, 129 counseling sessions were provided for 48 different clients between August 2020 and June 2021. That is funded by a special fund we have called the Chrysalis Fund for Mental Health, which was established in memory of a former board member who died by suicide. And so we are always accepting donations specifically to the Chrysalis Fund to help continue that important work. In 2020, we received just under $25,000 in donations. And so far in 2021, we're at about 48,000. So you can see already that our efforts have paid off. And this is all in support of making sure that we have the capacity to just meet some of those extended needs that we discovered in those surveys that Ash mentioned. Here's the grant information. So we've written 26 grant applications this year. So that's one every second week, basically. 11 were successful in some way. They weren't always fully funded, but successful in some way. 9 of them were unsuccessful, and 6 we're currently awaiting word about. And then we also wrote letters of support or partnered on 6 other proposals with other organizations. So we'll be excited to see some of those come back also. Okay, in 2022, the first thing is I guess a news item. So we can share that Spectrum has hired myself as our new executive director for a 1-year contract in 2022. I'm very excited, very excited and a little bit proud that the board has chosen to put their trust in me to deliver on the mission of the organization. I do have a long history with Spectrum. Jim, you recruited me back in 2013. I was at first, I think, our librarian, and then I joined our board and I was the secretary of the board for a time. And then over the years, I helped with various fundraising things. And then I was very excited to be the project coordinator this year, and even more excited to see what we can accomplish going forward. In our physical space, which has largely been closed due to the pandemic, but also due to renovations. The first week of January, Trisha Abe, who's a well-known local artist, will be painting a mural in our space on one entire wall. And we have seen it and approved it, and it's wonderful, and everyone is going to really like it. It's going to make the space much more welcoming, I hope, and it'll be just great to have here. The wage grant has also allowed us to purchase various furniture and equipment. So I'm sitting right now at one of the new desks that we purchased and built. And soon we will be having some equipment installed, including a large TV and cameras and speakers, so that we'll be able to deliver some hybrid in-person and virtual programming. There really is still a divide in what people are comfortable with in terms of doing in-person or virtual programming. And so we want to be able to do both all the time to be as accessible as possible. Questions? I think I can stop sharing now. Oh, I see some things happening in the chat. Let me just see. Lots of thank yous and congratulations. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I think we have been able to deliver on the proposal as it was submitted. Jim, maybe you could speak to that. Have we gotten to where you thought we would get to?
I hardly know how to respond. It's just absolutely amazing. Melissa and I conceived the idea all back in April of 2020. We wanted to see Spectrum move to the next level. We were so excited about it. Honestly, it was something like 9 months of nail biting before we found out. And we've been working with Janet Egan to move things forward. But my God, Spectrum is moving to the next level. We're getting there. Thank you so much for the work you did with us, Janet. I can't even express how excited I am by how we're moving forward. I'm now a lowly volunteer, but I am so proud. I am so proud of everything that has been happening over the last year, and I'm really looking forward to what happens next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful opportunity. I think we've all, well, it's been my privilege certainly to get to know Ash and Shannon and get to work with them. I've learned a lot from them, and I think the organization has benefited a lot from their expertise and their hard work. So.
Yeah, and I just want to add that Jim, I'm really grateful to the vision that you and Melissa had in putting together this proposal. I was not well connected with the local queer community prior to this. You know, over the course of this year, I've just really, everything that I've been working on has showed me that we have such a need for an organization like Spectrum. And, you know, there's such a need for, you know, for everything that we've managed to accomplish, there's still even more that needs to be done.
Speaking of that, I can talk a little bit about what we hope to go into 2022 doing. So the Two-Spirit program that I mentioned at the beginning is something we're very excited about. We also know from the survey information that there's a lack of programming and services for 2S LGBTQ youth under the age of 12. So we're really very fortunate to have the OK to Mimi program in KW, who they serve largely 12 to 18, and Spectrum can do the 18 plus, but nobody right now is doing under 12. So we're looking forward to being able to do something there. Also for parents, both parents of 2S LGBTQ children and 2S LGBTQ parents of any children, we're looking at hopefully doing some programming for them. And then bisexual and pansexual people, that focus group information was extremely helpful, and we know what needs to be done. It's just a matter of having the resources to do it now. So those are the first sort of target areas I think we're looking at. And then Debbie, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just started typing, but it's easier if I speak. I just want to say I'm very impressed, and I want to congratulate you all for the work that you're doing. In particular, I think the terminology guide could be very useful. I have a daughter who's studying at U of T and in disability studies, and she's always my go-to person. But you know, what's the politically correct way of referring to different things, whatever it might be, right? And this is very helpful. I haven't looked at it, but I think it could be very helpful. And I also wanted to ask about the RDT workshops. So is there an opportunity to reach out to, you know, city staff? Shannon, you might be able to answer this question, or, you know, different organizations or institutions that are out there so proactively going into those spaces to give those workshops. And maybe you're already doing it. I just thought that would be my question. So thank you for the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, we definitely, we have sold several workshops. We have I think 4 booked in January, some with University of Waterloo and some with another organization that I cannot call at the moment. But yes, and we've been in touch with all of the municipalities to talk about how we might deliver training to their staff also. So this is going to be an important revenue stream for Spectrum going forward. But it also is just important in getting the getting the work done and making sure that people have the education, have access to the education that they need to reduce homo bi transphobia in our community overall. Jim, yeah.
If I could just expand on that, I joined the University of Waterloo group 50 years ago in 1971. And by 1973, we started going to classes to educate people. We understood that there was kind of three groups of people, who could be persuaded by hearing our experiences, people who were already persuaded, and then the people there was no way they were ready. So we considered that kind of training and education important 50, well, in this case, 48 years ago. And it's been a long process. Back in the 1970s, we were not terribly welcome. We were considered to be perverts. There was a lot of stuff that was happening. It took years and years and years. And finally, in the late 1990s, human rights legislation happened. Back in 1971, the University of Waterloo group had a manifesto that had several points. One was human rights as opposed to decriminalization. One was more social opportunities, but another was to feel comfortable being who we were. People walking hand in hand, same-sex couples walking hand in hand, people being transparent about who they are. And a lot of that has been gained, but we're still not completely there because there are many people in our community who are either not comfortable being transparent about who they are, like same-sex couples walking hand in hand, or who are punished because they cannot hide who they are. And that goes for a lot of trans people. I have numerous trans friends who have experienced emotional and physical violence. So when we talk about more work needing to be done, that is absolutely the case. There's still a whole lot more that needs to be done. We're not safe until we can be transparent about who we are in front of complete strangers.
Yeah, and thank you, Jim, for making that point. Just to add my own personal perspective as a transgender non-binary person, I didn't come out until a little less than 5 years ago because I didn't know that non-binary was a thing you could be. I'd never been exposed to that. Right now, the conversation around gender identity and expression is where things were at 20 years ago for same gender folks, where there's a lot of fear mongering, and homosexuality was decriminalized in 1967, and later steps were taken to grant equal rights to same-sex couples. It was only a couple days ago that conversion therapy was outlawed in Canada. And it took 4 tries over a whole bunch of years to add gender identity and gender expression in the 2010s to the Human Rights Act of Canada. So, and lastly, the thing I'll just say is there's a real cost for the ignorance in our community. One of the major findings of our perception of LGBTQ+ people survey that we did was that there is a lack of knowledgeability about 2S LGBTQ issues and identities in our community, and that lack of support correlates positively with lack of knowledgeability. So the more the less knowledge someone has, the more likely they are to have anti-2S LGBTQ+ beliefs, such as trans people are dangerous for children, and children should not have access to transgender people. It was just one example of the beliefs that is present in our community and is still active right now. So, this training work that we're doing is extremely important in directly addressing the hatred that's still experienced by trans people in our community.
Thank you. So everybody, please visit our resources page and share the resources, the terminology guide, those videos. That's what they're there for. It's an incredible investment from Wage that has made this work possible, and it just needs to get out there so people can make use of it. I wanted to just say thank you, Catherine, from the Enchanté Network for being here. I'm looking forward to reaching out to you and Tyler soon to talk about more how we might work together. It's very great. And a big special thanks to Janet Egan and Women and Gender Equality, because this project has really transformed Spectrum, and we're excited to see where we might go next. And we're very excited to see what federal funding might come next to organizations like Spectrum. Jim, yeah.
Could I just ask a kind of personal question of the three people on Project Excelsior? How did it feel? How did it feel as you were doing it? How do you feel right now? Can you respond to that? Scott.
Today I feel a lot of joy, I guess. I feel pride.
Mm-hmm.
I've known Spectrum since almost the beginning. We'll be 10 years old next year. And the organization has just come so far in this space of time. And we've been able to build on all of the hard work that Jim and you and other volunteers have really put in, much more than any volunteer could reasonably be asked to put in. So we've benefited greatly from all of the work that you did. But I feel, yeah, I feel joy, I feel happy, and I feel optimistic, which is rare for me, about where we might be going next. Yeah.
Wow. Ash, can you speak about how this experience was for you and how you're feeling right now? How does it feel?
Man, what a weird and wild year it's been, doing all of this during COVID. Mm-hmm. You know, and especially just the sheer amount of work that had to be accomplished. It feels like this took 10 years, and simultaneously it feels like we did it in 5 minutes. So I don't know. In some ways it was a very surreal experience. I've gotten to the point where I feel really good about it now. I feel good about everything that we've accomplished. I feel good that I accomplished everything that I had set myself, you know, above and beyond what was outlined in the original plan. There were definitely times where, because I was, you know, just because of the stuff I'm dealing with in my own personal life as a trans person, I was very aware of the stakes for everything that I wanted to accomplish. And there were, you know, Shannon and Scott can tell you, there were times when they had to talk me off the ledge of, oh my God, this thing is never going to get done. But we did it. We got here, and it's a relief that, you know, all of the major, at least from a marketing perspective, all of the major objectives for 2021 have been accomplished. And, you know, I just had a training session with Scott about how to, you know, run our website. And, you know, it's nice to have an orderly wrap up rather than still be in the middle of frantically doing things.
Wow. Shannon, talk to us.
Yeah, I am feeling emotional right now throughout this presentation. It's been hard to believe that we are so close to the end, and that there's only really like a week and a half left of actual work. And there were, again, times, like Ash said, that I was like, I don't know that this is going to get done. And Scott would ask, how are you feeling about this? And I always went back and forth. I'm like, yeah, some days I feel great, and other days I'm like, how are we going to do this? But like Ash said, we did it, we are here. And it's like thinking about the beginning of the year and what I thought the end of the year would look like. Well, I didn't even know if we would be in person. I'm like, am I even going to meet these people? I don't know. But yeah, just thinking about where we are now versus where I thought it would be, it's incredible. And as sad as it is to be leaving Spectrum full time, I'm so excited for the future of Spectrum. And it's not like I'm saying, bye Spectrum, I'll never see you. I will definitely be here. And yeah, I'm just so grateful. And it's just been an incredible place to work. This is actually my first 9 to 5. I did a lot of contract work before, so not what I expected. I'm also in HR, so again, not what I expected, but like absolutely blew any sort of expectation. And I learned so much from everybody. So yeah, thank you everyone for this opportunity and for being here. yeah, I'm super excited for the future of Spectrum.
You remind me, Shannon, that we didn't, none of us actually met in person until June, July. We started to do that, which is wild. Yeah. Janet.
Yeah, I just thought I'd say a couple of quick words. Just from my perspective, starting with wage, I had projects transferred to me, but this was the first one I took on from the beginning. And it has been such a wonderful experience, rewarding, wonderful people to work with, and the updates have been amazing. It's unreal to think it's only been 12 months and everything that you've accomplished. And thank you. I feel privileged that I've been involved even a little. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. And Catherine, do you have a question?
Thanks, everybody. This has been so nice to see all of you. So I'm Catherine with the Enchanté Network. We're getting some members to share testimonials or to share some context and stories in like a written or video format about sort of what they got out of the Capacity Fund. So if I shot you off an email, could that maybe interest you, a little bit of storytelling on like why, you know, bringing on staff and developing your capacity made an impact at Spectrum and helped your ability to serve your communities?
For sure. Yeah. I will watch for your message.
Wonderful. Thanks, everybody.
And I just saw Mark's message in the chat. Yeah, so it's very sad to be going forward into 2022 with only one of us continuing as a full-time staff person. One of my big jobs going forward will be to try to continue to find funds so that we can bring in more bodies, because we have the expertise and the capacity in our community to do this work. It's just a matter of being able to pay folks so they can live. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns?
Hi, Scott. I just want to say I'm Tom Connolly, the current president of the board, sitting out back with our cats in a little tent since it's such a nice day, and enjoying the sun before it goes away. So I just want to say, you know, excellent job by everyone and on this presentation. And I feel like I'll be able to cruise into being president rather easily. And I think you've all made my job that much easier than it might have been. And the amount of work that's been done over the past year is truly just spectacular. And I'm so impressed and proud and grateful to be a member of this organization, and looking forward to making 2022 even better. So thanks again.
Thank you. I think that's probably a great note to go out on. Thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time to be here. It's great to see everybody. And anytime now, you can reach out to me, Scott@OurSpectrum.com.